Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic and massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had. Best you'll probably have as well. Everything USDA Prime, not choice, Prime. Big difference, folks. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! Yes! All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on radio. Pick your favorite station across these United States of America. Also, in which we appear, that is. Also on television in select markets on Pick Your Favorite Cable Provider or on Hotel TV as well. Everybody on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, thanks for joining us, plus all other streaming platforms. Some sad news right from the very top, and unfortunately, the all-time hits leader, Pete Rose, has died at 83 years of age. Lots of articles everywhere, lots of rhetoric here, there, whatever, for him, against him, praising him, not praising him. As a player, absolutely I praise him. And I'll tell you what, Major League Baseball wrote a really nice article here, MLB.com that is, and they stated, a gritty baseball great who compiled a nearly unrivaled list of achievements only to tarnish his own legacy with sins against the game that drew a nearly unrivaled list of detractors. Pete Rose has died at the age of 83. Rose passed away with distinction of being both Major League Baseball's all-time hits leader and on its permanently ineligible list for betting on Cincinnati Reds baseball games. Major League Baseball said in a statement, quote, Major League Baseball extends its deepest condolences to Pete Rose's family, his friends across the game, and the fans of his hometown of Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and beyond who admired his greatness, grit, and determination on the field of play. May he rest in peace, close quote. A Cincinnati native, of course, who became a franchise icon for the Cincinnati Reds. Rose is the club's all-time leader in games, 2,722. Plate appearances, 12,344. Runs scored, 1,741. Hits, 3,358. Singles, 2,490. Doubles, 601. Walks, 1,210. Over his 24-year career that spanned from 1963 to 1986 and saw him also play for the Phillies and Expos, Rose had picked up 4,256 total hits. And Bob Castellini, Reds principal owner and managing partner, said, quote, our hearts are deeply saddened by the news of Pete's passing. He was one of the fiercest competitors the game has ever seen, and every team he played for was better because of him. Pete was a Red through and through. No one loved the game more than Pete, and no one loved Pete more than the Reds and Reds country. We must never forget what he accomplished, close quote. Now, among his individual achievements, Rose was the 1963 National League Rookie of the Year, the 1973 Most Valuable Player, and winner of 3 batting titles and 2 Gold Gloves. He also made 17 All-Star Game appearances and was named a member of Major League Baseball's All-Century team in 1999. Of course, his nickname was Charlie Hustle. And of course, for his enthusiasm and hard-nosed style of playing the game, Rose put his competitive spirit on full display at the 1970 All-Star Game at Cincinnati's Riverfront Stadium, and he scored the game-winning run in the bottom of the 12th by barreling into catcher Ray Fosse for a vicious collision, despite it being an exhibition game. It's just how he played. So, throughout his career, Pete loved, and the passion for the game was undeniable, and it was always on full display. And he even said, quote, "I'd walk through hell and gasoline in a gasoline suit to play baseball," close quote. Part of the Big Red Machine dynasty, Pete won 2 World Series championships with the Reds in 1975 and 76, and a 3rd World Series title with the Philadelphia Phillies in 1980. He was born way back in April 14th of 1941. Peter Edward Rose grew up in the blue-collar neighborhood of Anderson Ferry near the Ohio River on Cincinnati's west side, and attended Western Hills High School. After he graduated, he signed with the Reds for a $7,000 bonus back in 1960. Rose told biographer David Jordan, quote, "I don't remember ever wanting to be anything but a professional athlete, and it's a good thing I became one because I never prepared for anything else," close quote. Even at the age of 21, Pete debuted with the Cincinnati Reds on April 8th of 1963, and somewhat ironically went hitless in his 3 at-bats, and 0 for 12 before notching his first hit in the big leagues. By 1970, under manager Sparky Anderson, the Big Red Machine began a stretch of consistent winning. Rose, Bench, Perez, Concepcion, and eventually Joe Morgan and Foster would win 5 division titles, 4 NL pennants, 2 World Series from 70 to 76, arguably one of the greater stretches in baseball for a club in the modern era. And of course, Sparky Anderson famously once said of Pete Rose, quote, "He is Cincinnati. He's the Reds," close quote. Now, back in 1973, Pete won the NL MVP after he batted .338. He slashed .338, .401, .437 with 5 home runs and 64 RBIs while playing in 160 games. In the 1975 7-game thriller that took down the Red Sox, he was named the World Series MVP after batting .370 with an OPS of .966. During the 78 season, Rose compiled a 44-game hit streak, still third longest in Major League Baseball history. He remains the only player who came closest to reaching Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak from 1941. And of course, with the dawn of free agency in the mid-1970s, the economic landscape of the game was altered dramatically, and the Reds were slow to change with the times. Unfortunately, instead of retaining Rose, Cincinnati let him get away when he was signed to a 4-year, $3.2 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, folks, that may not seem like a lot of money, but I could tell you, back in those times, that was a lot of money. He also joined future Hall of Famer Mike Schmidt, and Pete Rose won his 3rd World Series with Philadelphia in 1980 and one more NL pennant in 1983. And it was with the Phillies in 1981 when Rose passed Hall of Famer Stan Musial with his 3,361st base hit for the most all-time in the National League. Of course, at the age of 43, in 1984, Rose signed with the Expos, and he played only 95 games for Montreal, but it was, of course, with that franchise that he notched his 4,000th hit. So it's just history everywhere this guy went. On August 16th, 1984, the Reds brought Pete Rose home by acquiring him in a trade to become the club's player-manager and for him to continue his pursuit of Ty Cobb's all-time Major League hits record. And, of course, that record fell on September 11th, 1985 at Riverfront Stadium versus the Padres, facing pitcher Eric Shaw, and Eric was a good one. In the bottom of the first inning, Rose lifted a single to left center for career hit number 4,192, and he received a thunderous and extended standing ovation and was greeted on the field by his teammates and then 15-year-old son Pete Jr., who gave him a hug at first base. Now, Rose retired as a player following the 86 season and followed and focused full-time on managing, and his clubs finished in second place 5 times between 84 and 89, but scandals unfortunately overshadowed his tenure as the skipper. During the 1988 season, Rose served a 30-day suspension for shoving umpire Dave Pallone. Not to say that Dave didn't deserve it, who knows? But Pete was a big, fierce competitor, and he didn't want to get pushed around or his team to get pushed around. In 89, it was determined that Major League Baseball investigators had said that he violated the league rules by betting on baseball games while managing the Reds. And of course, Commissioner Bart Giamatti had declared that Rose was permanently ineligible for Major League Baseball, but could apply for reinstatement after a year. In fact, Giamatti said on August 24, 1989, quote, "The banishment for life of Pete Rose from baseball is a sad end of a sorry episode," close quote. And he continues on, quote, "One of the game's greatest players has engaged in a variety of acts which have stained the game, and he must now live with the consequences of those acts. There's absolutely no deal for reinstatement," close quote. And the story goes on and on and on. We're going to stop right there because we have a break coming on. And we will talk a little bit more about what Pete has accomplished because he was such an icon in the sport of baseball and also in professional sports. So he deserves certainly more than one segment here on the Sports Circus. We're going to come back to Pete Rose in just a few minutes right here on the Sports Circus on your favorite station. Until then, don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment is brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Yes! Yes! That's my patented yes! So don't copy it. I should give me credit. All right, welcome back, everybody. Listening in on all of our TV and radio affiliates and streaming from coast to coast. Big hello to our friends over on Facebook on Chicago Food Favorites. Thanks for joining us over there, as well as all of our network affiliates from Honolulu all the way down to Atlanta, Georgia, and a whole bunch of points in between. Special hello to our friends over in Auburn, Alabama. War Eagle, thanks for joining us on 1230 a.m. WAUD, of course, over in Alabama. That signal stretches from where? Montgomery, Alabama, all the way over to Columbus, Georgia. And speaking of Georgia, WDJY 99.1 FM, thanks for listening to us over there, as well as our friends in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500, KHKA, that's home of the Yankees, 49ers, and Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus, a big hello to our friends on all independents from coast to coast that pick our show up. I think there's over 200 of you. Nonetheless, I appreciate that. We appreciate it. We've been around for a long time. And guess what? We're all having fun here, except for today's conversation, sort of a somber one, with the passing of Pete Rose, the all-time hits leader. And, you know, I was just going over a nice article, but, some of it was nice, but then again, it's just informative. It's a pretty comprehensive article by Major League Baseball, by MLB.com. They did a pretty good job, and I left off talking about the infamous situation with Bart Giamatti when he's saying he's going to ban Pete Rose and whatnot. And, you know, the ban actually, back to this article here, the ban actually kept Rose blocked from election to a place where he'd otherwise been enshrined in the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. And I was there many years ago, and it was really strange not seeing Pete there because he absolutely belonged there. But then again, you have to ask yourself, did he belong there? In 1991, the Hall's board voted that anybody permanently banned from the game would be ineligible for the Baseball Writers Association of America ballot and blocked from enshrinement. So here's the thing that I don't really understand, or I don't really have a good feeling about. You know, you've got baseball writers that are voting on this. And I can tell you as a former baseball player, it always bothered me when the press would get in the way of what was really going on the field, because they would spin a story as they see it because that's their job. However, a sports writer is not a player. And most news people are not players, or they haven't been players. I'm one of the few that I know that actually is on this side of it, that has played and also that reports on it. But it's been so long between. I'm actually now on the reporting side of it, but I report fairly and balanced. I don't give the fake news spin BS. So what MLB.com is only spelling out are facts. They're not making an editorial out of this. What they're doing is they're giving some good information about a player that deserves I'm not going to say to be in the Hall of Fame, because me personally, I don't believe Pete belongs in there because of this gambling thing, which I'm going to get to in a minute, and some other stuff. But as a player, yeah, he absolutely belongs. But as a non-player outside of that world, I don't know about that. You be the judge. Let's continue on here. So as I said, the ban also kept Rose blocked from election to the National Baseball Hall of Fame. In 1991, the Hall's board voted, of course, that anybody that's permanently banned from baseball cannot get into the Baseball Writers Association of America's ballot. That's where we left off with this writers nonsense. But for nearly 2 decades, Rose forcefully denied having bet on baseball until finally admitting that he had been lying and did in fact bet on games. Pete's troubles extended away from baseball, though. In 1990, he served a 5-month prison sentence after he pled guilty to tax evasion charges when not reporting earnings from memorabilia sales, personal appearances, and gambling. In 2016, it was revealed that Pete Rose engaged in a relationship with an unidentified teenage girl younger than 16 during the 1970s when he was playing for the Cincinnati Reds. Come on. Oh, yeah. That's as it's reported. That's MLB.com. That's not me. So she was under 16 at the time their sexual relationship began. A lawsuit was dismissed after both sides reached a confidential agreement. You be the judge. Although he remained banned from the game to his death, Major League Baseball did allow Rose limited access for special occasions. He was part of the 1999 naming of the All-Century team revealed before Game 2 of the World Series in Atlanta and received a standing ovation. In 2016, the Reds were granted permission to induct Pete Rose into their own Hall of Fame and retire his number 14, and he also took part in a reunion of the 1976 World Series winners. In 2022, he was in Philadelphia for a reunion of the Phillies' 1980 championship team that was delayed 2 years because of the pandemic. Now, in his later years, Pete was a fixture at autograph signings in Las Vegas casinos, at shops. I saw him several times at one I which will not name at Caesar's Palace because they're not paying me any money. It was a store inside of the mall inside of Caesar's Palace. But he was regularly there, and you could sit and talk to him. I talked to him many, many times. And he's a very interesting guy. But nonetheless, as they said, he was a fixture at these autograph signings throughout Vegas, casinos and shops along Main Street in Cooperstown during Hall of Fame weekend. He also helped place one of the first legal sports bets in Ohio at a Cincinnati casino once sports betting was allowed in 2023. And of course, Pete may have lived the latter portion of his years away from the game that often defined his life, but rarely was he far from the spotlight. And he continued to be beloved, a legend by most fans in Cincinnati and around the nation. Now, Pete, when you look at his career, this is crazy. When you look at all the things that he accomplished and so forth and so on, it's maddening to imagine what this guy actually did. So, of course, as I mentioned, as a player, Reds, Phillies, Expos, back with the Reds, then a manager spanning many, many years, 17-time All-Star, 3-time World Series champion, National League MVP, World Series MVP, National League Rookie of the Year, 2-time Gold Glove winner, Silver Slugger Award winner, Roberto Clemente Award, 3-time National League batting champion, Reds number 14 retired, Reds Hall of Fame, Major League Baseball's all-century team. Oh, and guess what? I mean, we're not done. There's all kinds of other records here. Let's think about this. Wrap your head around this. Rose made National League All-Star roster 17 times. Of course, only 3 National League players, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, and Stan Musial, and 5 American League players, Mickey Mantle, Cal Ripken, Ted Williams, Rod Carew, and Carl Yastrzemski, have more appearances. Think about that one. He was voted the National League's most valuable player, as I mentioned, in 73, but also finished in the top 5 vote getters in 68, 69, 75, and 76. He led the league in batting average 3 times, as I mentioned, and of course in plate appearances 7 times. In games played and doubles 5 times, at bats and runs scored 4 times, and in on-base percentage twice. So his major league records that stand. Most career at bats, 1,453. 14,053. Excuse me. Most career plate appearances, 1,590. Most career hits, 4,256. Most career singles, 3,215. Most career times on base, 5,929. Most career outs, that's an interesting one, 10,328. Most career games played, 3,562. Most career winning games played, 1,972. That's a big one. Only player to play at least 500 games at 5 different positions. First base, 939. Left field, 671. Third base, 634. Second base, 628. Right field, 595. Most career runs by a switch hitter, 2,165. Most career doubles by a switch hitter, 746. Most career walks by a switch hitter, 1,566. Most career total bases by a switch hitter, 5,752. Most seasons of 200 or more hits, 10. Most consecutive seasons of 100 or more hits, 23. Most consecutive seasons of 100 or more hits, I said it. I have to say it again because it's ridiculous, 23. Most consecutive seasons with 600 or more at-bats, 13. This guy was durable. Most seasons with 600 at-bats, 17. Most seasons with 150 or more games played, 17. Most seasons with 100 or more games played, 23. National League records. Most years played, 24. Most consecutive years played, 24. Most career runs, 2,165. Most career doubles, 746. Most career games with 5 or more hits, 10. That's crazy. 5 hits in a game, 10 times. Modern, post-1900. National League record for longest consecutive hitting streak, 44 games. Modern record for most hitting streaks of 20 or more games. He's done it 7 times. He accumulated 63 4-hit games in Major League Baseball. That's insane. He retired in 1986 with the highest modern-day career fielding percentage for a right fielder at 99.14 and the highest National League modern-day career fielding percentage for a left fielder at 99.07, behind only the Oakland A's Joe Rudy and then active players Gary Renicky and Brian Downing, who also primarily played in the American League. Unbelievable. This guy did it all, folks. Nice round of applause for the great Pete Rose. Back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Don't go anywhere. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the MTV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Gibson Performance Exhaust. Check them out at GibsonPerformance.com. Got to tell you, folks, Gibson Performance is the industry's #1 leading manufacturer of street-legal, high-performance exhaust systems for trucks, SUVs, diesel, off-road, side-by-side, and motorhomes. They do it all. Give Sean a call, 800-528-3044. Sean Gibson, 800-528-3044 for Gibson Performance Exhaust, and tell him the Sports Circus sent you. Yes! And a big welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Also, big hello to our friends over watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, and WOW Cable television affiliates in select markets. That's television affiliates in select markets. Also, Hotel TV in about 500,000 rooms or so from coast to coast when we decide to get it on there. And also, big hello to our friends over on social media, Facebook, Chicago Food Favorites. Thanks for joining us there. Also on Instagram and YouTube, and pick your favorite platform. You can't get away from us, folks. All right. Going back into this baseball discussion, listen, we just spent a lot of time talking about Pete Rose, and rightfully so. Pete with a lot of years, a lot of records, and a lot of influence on the game of baseball, and he was baseball. You open up the dictionary and to look up the word baseball, and Pete Rose's picture, maybe in some of those pictures or in some of those dictionaries. Nonetheless, the playoffs are upon us. And how does this stuff work now? Because, we have a few wild card teams. We have our division winners, etc. Now there's 12 teams that make the playoffs in baseball when we used to just have 4 teams. That was it. East, West, in both the National and American. That's it. But now we have 12 teams. It's nuts. Anyway, people say, well, how do the playoffs work? What's happening now with this? So Major League Baseball, this is according to NBC Sports Philadelphia, Channel 10. Major League Baseball playoff format seeds teams 1 through 6 in each league, with the 3 division winners making up the 3 seeds, followed by the 3 wildcard teams. And the top 2 seeds in each league receive a bye to the division series. The remaining 4 teams in each league compete in a best-of-3 wildcard series where the higher seed team has home field advantage for all 3 games. So you say, well, that's not really fair, but then again, it kind of is fair, right? So home field advantage, I mean, if you look at what happened with Atlanta and the New York Mets, that one you'd almost say it's not really fair, but nonetheless, the matchups are number 3 versus number 6, third best division winner versus third best wild card team, right? So you have the lowest on the totem pole in the division winners with record against the lowest on the totem pole in the wild card. And that kind of makes a little bit of sense, right? 1 and 2, they get a bye. So be it. And the number of 4 and 5 best wild card teams and the second best, they play each other. So then the question is, do the Major League Baseball playoffs reseed? No, they don't. They do not. No reseeding. Nope. So the top seed in each league will face the winner of the 4-5 matchup in the division series, while the number 2 draws the winner of the 3-6 matchup. So how many games are in the playoffs? A lot of people ask about this. Well, the wild card is a best-of-3 format where the higher seed hosts all 3 games. The division series is the best-of-5 with a 2-2-1 format, right? 2 home, 2 away, and then 1 if necessary. And, of course, the higher seed, of course, hosts game 1, 2, and 5. Now, both League Championship Series and the World Series, of course, are best of 7 in a 2-3-2 format, whereas basketball is a 2-2-1-1-1. Hockey, I think, is also... No, basketball is actually 2-3-2. It's the National Hockey League is a 2-2-1-1-1. So they alternate the last 3 games. So that 2-3-2 format, where the higher seed, of course, will host game 1, 2, 6, and 7. So... you say, what's the playoff schedule? Well, the Wildcard Series, October 1 through 3. Division Series, October 5 through 12. League Championship Series, October 13 through October 22. And then the World Series would begin Friday, October 25, and a potential Game 7 would be scheduled all the way out to November 2nd, which I think baseball in November, there's just something wrong with that. The World Series begins on Friday, October 25th, and a potential game is slated for Saturday, November 2nd. All right, so we'll give them a nice round of applause. And that's how that stuff works. Now we look at these playoff brackets, and this is a whole nother discussion. So the brackets, well, the Phillies and the Dodgers in the National League are getting the byes. So when you look at the other series, you have the Padres in the wild card traveling to play at, actually they're hosting Atlanta. So Atlanta is the number 5 lower seed from the number 4 Padres. And then in the other wild card, you have the Milwaukee Brewers, who won the division, the Central Division. They're hosting the New York Mets. Now over on the other side of the bracket, you've got the New York Yankees and the Cleveland Guardians getting the first round bye, and the wild card looks like division winner Houston Astros, boy, a very hot Houston team, playing a very hot Detroit Tiger team. So that's the 3-6 matchup there, where Houston is going to host those games. But honestly, it doesn't seem to matter to Detroit, because those guys just seem to win wherever the hell they're playing. They are arguably the hottest team in baseball right now, and certainly a tough draw for the Houston Astros. But then again, it's a very tough draw for the Detroit Tigers. And what's interesting about that matchup is the old Houston manager is the manager of the Detroit Tigers. So he knows a little something about playing in Houston, but at the same time, he knows what it's like to win. That's going to be a very interesting series. That's a 3-game series, all 3 games. So those games are going to be played in Houston, but I tell you, that is going to be one tough series. And you have another tough one with the Orioles, who have been locked into a playoff spot for a long time, playing the Kansas City Royals, and the Royals are peaking at the right time, just like the Detroit Tigers. A very interesting matchup here. I mean, you could actually see 3 American League Central teams in the second round. It's very, very doable for the Kansas City Royals to beat the inconsistent Baltimore Orioles. Very doable. The Royals are playing very good ball lately, and of course we know the Tigers are playing really good ball too. So you could see those teams advance. And then in the second round, in the divisional round, you could see a divisional matchup with the Guardians hosting the Detroit Tigers. And that would mean the Royals would travel to play the Yankees. However, if the Orioles did beat the Royals, you'd have another division matchup with the Orioles and the Yankees, who battled all year. And it was the Yankees eventually that came out on top. Who comes out of that bracket? I mean, I happen to think it's going to be Cleveland advancing over either Detroit or Houston. I've got Cleveland going to the LCS against the New York Yankees. And the New York Yankees, for whatever reason, I think that they're missing a couple of key components. And yes, they've got a bunch of big, thunderous bats in that lineup. I get it. I just don't think that they play the caliber of defense that the Cleveland Guardians play. I've got Cleveland going to the World Series. I've had this one all year. So I've got Cleveland representing the American League, although the media likely wants the Yankees because they're probably looking for the number one market in the media against the number two market being New York and LA. Over in the National League, I've got the Brewers beating the Mets, and I've got the Brewers beating the Phillies, and the Dodgers advancing against either the Padres or the Braves, and the Brewers and Dodgers advancing to the World Series. And then I've got Cleveland beating the Dodgers in the World Series. Now, that doesn't mean anything because I really had, before this, I actually had Arizona coming out of the National League, but they lost on the last day in that doubleheader split between the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves, which both teams made the playoffs. If one team would have swept the doubleheader either way, that team would have been out and the Arizona Diamondbacks would have been in. But it didn't work out that way. How convenient. So the betting audience sort of got what they wanted. The two teams playing the extra game, or it wasn't an extra game, but the last game of the season, they got what they wanted too. We're going to go over the odds, what Vegas has to say, when we come back on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Man Candy Beef Jerky. Gotta love that one, folks. Man Candy Beef Jerky. You know, recently I went to this event. It was over in Southern California. It was kind of like the enormous car off-road show. It's motorcycles, or not motorcycles, but it was like sand rails and all kinds of cool off-road whatnot. I think it's the biggest one in the industry. And somebody had sent me a flyer on something called Carchella, like Coachella, but actually Carchella. Anyway, it was the biggest and best in the industry for the off-roading world. Boy, that was a lot of fun. There must have been 30,000 people there. I don't know, it was crazy. And I ran into these people that make this incredible beef jerky. And it was funny because I actually got a shirt. It said Man Candy Beef Jerky. How do you like that? I was like, oh, God, I love that. Anyway, so the guy was nice enough to let me try some of the jerky. I tried a couple of different flavors, and man, was it good. It was surprising because I was like, well, you know what? I want to try this one. This is kind of a hot one. So they had the different flavors. They had a variety pack, honey pepper, Korean barbecue, which I think I had that one too. Barbecue, black pepper, old fashioned, sweet and hot. I tried the sweet and hot. That was amazing. And also the sweet serrano. Have to tell you, folks, I'm a real beef jerky snob, but this was outstanding. Check them out at mancandybeefjerky.com. That's mancandybeefjerky.com. Or you can follow them at mancandybeefjerky, of course, online. So you can also pick up your T-shirts, whether it's long sleeve, short sleeve, hoodie, sweatshirts. They got all kinds of cool stuff. Trucker hats, women crop tanks, women crop tees, women muscle tanks, women's three-quarters. I mean, look, they've got them all, but I have to tell you, the jerky is phenomenal. The marketing behind it is genius. And this is one fun company with really good products. Check them out again at mancandybeefjerky.com. mancandybeefjerky.com. And tell them the circus sent you. Yes. But that's good stuff. All right. I got to stop thinking about food. It's killing me over here. All right. Talking about the baseball playoffs, the setup is already put together. Better yet, the bracket is already put together for the baseball playoffs. But you know what we don't have? We don't have odds yet. So the Dodgers and Yankees and Phillies and Guardians all get a bye. And so let's go from the odds all the way from the very top. Of course, the LA Dodgers. Pick your favorite casino or a betting outlet. It looks like essentially across the board they're about a plus 330. Therefore, you have to put up $100 and you'll win $330 if they win the World Series. Just the easy way to look at it. It's about 3-1, we'll just say. They opened up at 3-1 and they finished a little bit above there at maybe 3.5-1 or something close to that. The Yankees are a plus 400. They started off at 4-1, and now they're essentially 4.5-1. So they're a plus 450 everywhere except one of those online betting fantasy sports things. The Phillies started out at 3.75-1 or plus 375, and they're up to 475 at one of these venues, but the casinos got them at about 435 if you take the cumulative of all of them. We'll say 435 or 440. So the Phillies are getting a pretty good price with the Phillies, who have probably the best starting rotation left in Major League Baseball in the playoffs right now, because Seattle had the best starting rotation in the league all year long. The Astros, who don't get a bye, they're a wild card team. They're playing a wild card round anyway. They are plus 8.5-1. They're plus 850 to open. They're up to about, actually they're down to about 800 looking across the board. Only one place, and that's MGM has them at plus 900. So you put up 100 to win 900 if they win the World Series. But it looks like they're about 800 essentially across the board, except at Caesars Palace. The Guardians, who have a first round bye, open up at 11-1, and now they're down to 10-1 at the casinos, at most of them anyway. So it looks like the Guardians are a pretty good buy, and of course they have a really good, sound defensive game. Orioles open up at 9-1. They're up to 11-1, 13-1 in one of those houses. That's a big number, a very big price, but the Orioles have some injury issues. The streaking Padres opened up at 12-1, and they're down to 8.5-1 in most of the casinos, right around there, 8.5, 9-1. The Atlanta Braves, who snuck in on the last day, they opened up at 22-1, and they're down to, we'll call it, 17-1 in one place, 16-1 in another. We'll just call it across the board. The casinos got them at about 2,000 to 2,500. They're all over the board right now. If you're smart, if you're one of those bettors that like to bet big on these games, I mean, look, you actually have a chance to pick up the Braves at plus 2,800 at one of these online betting venues. You'll have to look it up. I'm not going to call them out, but I will call out MGM betting. I bet MGM, I think it is. They're at plus 2,500. So you put up 100, you can win 2,000, you can win 2,500. That's pretty darn good. A 25-1 shot. The Brewers, a very underrated club, open up at 18-1. They're up to 20-1 at a couple of the casinos, and the online fantasy sports venues have them at 16-1, 18-1, and so forth. The New York Metropolitans at 22-1, and even at one casino at Caesars Palace, they're down to 13-1. However, if you go to the online betting venues, you can pick them up. I'm not going to name them. You can pick them up at 23-1. So that's what the numbers are currently. The Kansas City Royals open up at 30-1, and they're down to 25-1 at the casinos. A couple of online places still have them at 30. And the Detroit Tigers, the streaking Tigers, they opened up at 30-1 to win the World Series. They're down to 25-1. So those are the odds for the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, you look at these. I mean, honestly, you could cover probably 3 or 4 of these, get yourself a World Series winner, and still make a little bit of something if one of the longer shots kind of come in here. So let's speaking of longer shots, let's take a look at the Rookie of the Year races. And I have an ongoing bet with a friend of mine. And when I think of the Rookie of the Year, I say, all right, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about the Rookie of the Year as far as Major League Baseball as we see it, as we feel it? I mean, look, there are really 2 players in the grand scheme of things for the Rookie of the Year in the National League. Let's just go to the National League first. So the National League, when we think of these Rookie of the Years, these Rookies of the Year, so to say, we ask ourselves, all right, who is making the vote? Who's voting on this? And we have a bunch of writers. All right, so I'll tell you what we're going to do. Instead of looking at the odds, let's just kind of rewind a little bit. Let's take a look at what CBS Sports has to say about this, because they have their 5 alleged experts. And what they're picking is, I think it's pretty spot on as far as the National League Rookie of the Year. So look, we'll have number 1 through 5. We're not going to name them. We don't need to give them any extra credit. So one of them, the very first one, has Jackson Merrill for the San Diego Padres winning the Rookie of the Year. And honestly, I think Jackson is a very good player. The problem is Jackson hits number 6 in the lineup. Yes, he plays every day, and so he's going to get consideration. I think he hit about 292 so far this year, and just say in the regular season. Had a really good year. And so you say, well, who is he competing against? Well, unfortunately for him, he's competing against the guy that all the other writers are selecting, including myself, and by a long shot, I don't see how in the world Paul Skeens doesn't win the Rookie of the Year. Man, this guy was good. In case you don't know who he is, you better take a look and find him, because he's that guy. And if you don't know anything about what he can do or what he has done, you better take a real hard look, because this guy is a generational pitcher at this point. He has done things and is capable of doing things that, frankly, most people don't do or can't do. And this guy could pitch in any era. This year, his wins above replacement as a starting pitcher is 6. He finished 11 wins against 3 losses with a sparkling ERA of 1.96 in 23 games. 133 innings pitched, not too many, with 170 strikeouts. And walks and hits per innings pitched, under 1, 0.947. That is really good. Those are Cy Young numbers. And in case you're wondering, we think of that whole Cy Young Award thing. So let's take a look at Chris Sale, because Chris Sale is likely going to win the Cy Young this year. Chris Sale, let's just compare what this guy did. Chris Sale, his wins above replacement just a touch over Paul Skeens, 6.2. And he's 18-3 versus Skeens, 11-3. So be it. But he also had 6 more starts, too. And he also pitched 47 more innings, 225 strikeouts. That's incredible. Walks and hits per innings pitched is 1.013. So obviously better than Skeens. But this guy also, he's been around for quite a while, too. And Chris Sale is one of the game's better pitchers. World Series champion, 8-time All-Star. But look back at what Paul Skeens has done. You say, well, hey, Skeens is right there. If you extend him out another 6 starts, this guy could also have maybe 17 wins, just 1 win right behind Chris Sale, with a better ERA. That's right, a better ERA. Chris Sale's ERA 2.38, Paul Skeens 1.96. This guy should be a runaway for the National League Rookie of the Year, despite what Jackson Merrill has done. And look, I'm okay with Merrill. And by the way, this whole MVP thing, they all have Ohtani winning the National League MVP. I'm going to get back to that in a second, because I want to talk about the American League Rookie of the Year. That's Colton Cowser, basically across the board by these same people. And I believe Colton Cowser is going to win it. But back to this MVP thing, I don't believe it should be Ohtani, because Ohtani only hits. He does not get out and play the field, and he cannot hit a pitch that's high and inside, nor can he hit a pitch that's low and away. So I don't think that a part-time player should win the MVP. I would give it to Francisco Lindor over him. Frankly, I would even give it to Zach Wheeler from the Philadelphia Phillies. In the American League, it looks like it's going to be Aaron Judge and Aaron Judge. That's it. Cy Young is going to be Tariq Skubal. Guy is good, and he is on a whole nother level. And so think about that in the American League. Maybe Bobby Witt Jr. would be the only person to compete with Aaron Judge, which he certainly has carried his team. And remember, Aaron Judge is protected by Juan Soto in the starting lineup, where Bobby Witt Jr. is not protected by anybody. I would argue that Bobby Witt Jr. had just as good of a season as Aaron Judge. Either way, it doesn't matter, because I'm not on the voting cast. Aaron Judge will win it. Ohtani will win it in the National League. And unfortunately, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. That's going to do it for me and for the Sports Circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you next time in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.